Okay, so you want to own a parking lot. Asphalt on the ground, cars pulling in all day, automated payment systems collecting fees 24/7. No inventory, no employees, no complicated operations. Just pure passive real estate income while you do something else. Sounds like the perfect business. And honestly, from the outside, it really does look that way. But here is what people who actually invest in this business know, and what most people watching real estate guru courses never tell you. A parking lot is not a paved ATM that prints money while you sleep. It is a location-dependent, regulation-heavy, competition-sensitive real estate play with narrow margins, significant capital requirements, and operational complexity that scales directly with revenue potential. The daily rate is real. The property tax bill is real, in ways that most people never see coming. Let's start at the beginning. When people say they want to own a parking lot, they are usually picturing one thing. A surface lot in a busy urban or commercial area where cars park by the hour or day, payment is automated through kiosks or apps, and revenue accumulates passively. That is one model. But the parking industry is far more diverse and far more segmented than most people realize. Surface parking lots, the basic asphalt or gravel lot with painted spaces, the lowest capital intensity but also the lowest revenue per square foot. Structured parking garages, multi-level facilities that maximize revenue per square foot of land but require massive capital investment, $15,000 to $35,000 per parking space to construct. Monthly contract parking, selling dedicated spaces to nearby residents or office workers on monthly subscriptions. Steady predictable income but lower per space rates than transient parking. Event parking, lots near stadiums, concert venues, or airports that generate massive revenue during events but sit empty otherwise. Valet parking operations, a service business that happens to use parking spaces, high labor costs but premium pricing. And private residential parking, renting individual spaces or small lots to residents in dense urban areas where street parking is scarce. Each category has completely different economics, different capital requirements, different margin structures, and different operational complexity. A small monthly parking lot in a suburb and a transient lot serving a downtown business district are as different financially as a coffee cart and a full-service restaurant. Here is the part that surprises people when they first look at this industry. Parking is not a growth business in most markets. The rise of remote work, ride-sharing, public transportation expansion, and increasingly, autonomous vehicles, are all long-term headwinds reducing parking demand. In major cities, urban planning policies actively discourage car dependency, reducing minimum parking requirements for new developments and converting parking spaces to bike lanes, outdoor dining, or green space. The number of parking spaces per capita in dense urban cores has been declining for over a decade. Yet, in certain locations, short-term supply and demand dynamics create real opportunity. The critical question is not whether parking is a good business in general. It is whether you can secure the right location at the right price with the right demand profile to generate returns that justify the capital and risk. Now let's talk about what it actually costs to enter this business, starting with the single largest expense. Land acquisition. Parking lot without land is nothing. You are in the real estate business first, the parking business second. The value of parking lot land varies wildly based on location. In a secondary downtown area or near a commuter rail station, land might cost $15 to $40 per square foot. In a prime urban core, that same land can cost $150 to $400 plus per square foot or more. A standard parking space requires approximately 300 to 350 square feet, including the space itself, drive aisles, and circulation area. A 100-space surface lot requires roughly 30,000 to 35,000 square feet, or about 0.7 to 0.8 acres. At $25 per square foot, that land costs $750,000 to $875,000. At $200 per square foot in a dense urban area, that same footprint costs $6 million to $7 million. This is the first brutal filter. If land costs $6 million and you can fit 100 spaces, each space carries a land cost of $60,000 before you have paved a single inch. To generate a reasonable return on that capital, each space needs to generate $400 to $600 per month in net operating income, which requires charging $25 to $40 per day with very high utilization, or $500 to $700 per month for contract parking. That pricing only works in the absolute densest, highest demand urban markets. In most markets, land at that price makes parking economically unviable. Most parking lot investors do not buy land in prime urban cores. They buy underutilized or distressed properties in secondary locations where land costs $10 to $50 per square foot, or they lease land from owners who cannot develop it immediately and want interim income. Ground leases for parking lots typically run $2 to $8 per square foot annually depending on location and term. On a 30,000 square foot lot, that is $60,000 to $240,000 per year in ground rent before you collect $1 from parkers. Let's assume you purchase a 0.75 acre parcel, roughly 32,000 square feet, in a secondary downtown area near office buildings and restaurants for $800,000. Now you need to develop it as a parking lot. Site preparation and grading, clearing vegetation, demolishing any existing structures, grading the land for proper drainage, typically costs $3 to $8 per square foot, depending on existing conditions. On 32,000 square feet, that is $96,000 to $256,000. Paving, asphalt is the standard, costs $2.50 to $5 per square foot installed including a proper base layer. On 32,000 square feet, that is $80,000 to $160,000. Concrete, more durable and lower maintenance but higher upfront cost, runs $6 to $10 per square foot, or $192,000 to $320,000 for the same area. Most operators use asphalt for surface lots. Striping and marking, painting the individual parking spaces, directional arrows, handicap symbols, and numbering, costs $1,200 to $3,500 depending on lot size and complexity. Lighting is required for safety, security, and night operation. Perimeter and area lighting meeting local code requirements costs $15,000 to $45,000 depending on the size of the lot and the density of light poles required. Security fencing, if required by local ordinance or for loss prevention, costs $15 to $35 per linear foot. Fencing a 200-foot by 160-foot lot perimeter costs $10,800 to $25,200. Drainage and stormwater management, required in most jurisdictions to prevent runoff contamination, can be simple catch basins and piping, $8,000 to $20,000, or complex bioswales and retention systems if local environmental regulations are strict, $30,000 to $80,000. Signage, entrance and exit signs, rate boards, wayfinding, and regulatory signs, $3,000 to $8,000. Payment infrastructure, this is where the model diverges significantly based on whether you operate attended or unattended. An unattended lot with automated payment requires pay stations or kiosks, $8,000 to $18,000 per unit, and you typically need 1 per 75 to 100 spaces. Entry and exit gate arms with ticket dispensers and card readers, $12,000 to $28,000 per lane for a basic system. License plate recognition cameras and software for enforcement and payment tracking, $8,000 to $20,000 for a small lot. A cloud-based parking management system integrating payments, enforcement, and reporting, $3,000 to $8,000 in setup fees plus $150 to $400 per month in subscription fees. Total development costs to convert raw land into a functional 100-space surface parking lot range from approximately $230,000 to $550,000 on top of land acquisition. Add the $800,000 land cost, and your total initial investment is $1.03 million to $1.35 million for a 100-space lot. That is $10,300 to $13,500 per parking space in capital before you generate a single dollar of revenue. Now let's talk about revenue, the part everyone focuses on but often misunderstands. Parking lot revenue depends on 3 variables: the rate you charge, the utilization rate, percentage of spaces occupied, and the hours of operation. A 100-space lot charging $10 per day with 50% average utilization operating 250 days per year generates $125,000 in annual revenue. The same lot at 70% utilization generates $175,000. At $15 per day and 70% utilization, revenue jumps to $262,500. But here is the reality. Utilization is not constant. A lot serving office workers might be 85% full weekdays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., 30% full in evenings, and 10% full on weekends. Average utilization across all operating hours might be 45% to 55%. A lot near restaurants and entertainment might be 20% full during the day, 80% full Friday and Saturday nights, and 40% full other evenings, averaging 35% to 45% overall. Peak utilization and average utilization are wildly different, and you build capacity for the peak, but you earn revenue on the average. This is the same challenge bowling alleys and movie theaters face. You have fixed costs that run 24/7 but revenue that concentrates in narrow time windows. Monthly contract parking operates differently. You sell a dedicated space to a customer for $100 to $300 per month depending on location and amenities. The revenue is predictable and recurring, but the rate per space is lower than transient parking. A space generating $200 per month in contract revenue produces $2,400 annually. The same space in transient use at $12 per day with 60% utilization, operating 250 days per year, generates $1,800 annually. The contract model generates more revenue per space, but only if you can fill the lot with monthly renters. In most markets, monthly demand is limited to 40% to 70% of capacity. The rest must be transient. Let's model a 100-space lot in a mixed-use urban area. You sell 50 spaces as monthly contracts at an average of $175 per month, generating $8,750 per month or $105,000 annually. The remaining 50 spaces operate as transient daily parking at $12 per day with 55% average utilization, generating $12,075 per month or $144,900 annually. Total annual revenue, $249,900. Now we subtract the reality of operating expenses. Property taxes are the single largest operating cost for most parking lots. Commercial property is assessed based on income potential or market value. In most jurisdictions, property tax rates run 1% to 2.5% of assessed value annually. If your lot and land are assessed at $1.2 million, annual property taxes are $12,000 to $30,000 depending on the jurisdiction. In high-tax states like New Jersey or Illinois, that can reach $24,000 to $36,000 or more. That is $1,000 to $3,000 per month before you have done anything else. Insurance, general liability, and property coverage costs $3,000 to $8,000 annually for a small surface lot. If you have automated equipment and significant capital exposure, that increases to $6,000 to $12,000. Maintenance and repairs. Asphalt needs seal coating every 2 to 3 years at 15 cents to 30 cents per square foot, or $4,800 to $9,600 per application. Pothole repairs, striping touch-ups, lighting maintenance, fence repairs, snow removal in winter climates, $4,000 to $12,000 annually depending on climate and condition. Utilities. Lighting alone can cost $400 to $1,200 per month, depending on lot size and lighting density. If you have heated payment kiosks or an on-site office, add another $200 to $600 per month. Annual utility costs, $6,000 to $18,000. Payment processing fees. Credit card transactions cost 2.5% to 3.5% of revenue. On $249,900 in revenue with 60% paid by card, that is $3,750 to $5,250 annually. Technology and software, parking management systems, license plate recognition, payment kiosks all require ongoing support contracts and software subscriptions, $2,400 to $6,000 annually. Enforcement and management. If you are fully automated and self-managed, this is minimal. If you hire a part-time attendant or enforcement officer to monitor for non-payment, handle disputes, or provide customer service, add $18,000 to $35,000 annually. Most small operators start fully automated to minimize labor. Marketing and tenant acquisition costs for monthly parkers, $1,200 to $3,600 annually. Administrative costs, accounting, legal, permits, $1,500 to $3,500 annually. Let's total the annual operating expenses for a 100-space lot generating $249,900 in revenue. Property taxes, $20,000. Insurance, $7,000. Maintenance and repairs, $8,000. Utilities, $10,000. Payment processing, $4,500. Technology, $4,000. Minimal labor for occasional oversight, $8,000. Marketing and administrative, $3,000. Total annual operating expenses, $64,500, or approximately 26% of gross revenue. That leaves $185,400 in net operating income. Now subtract your debt service. If you financed $1 million of your $1.3 million initial investment at 7% over 15 years, your annual debt service is approximately $110,000. After debt service, you are left with $75,400 in annual cash flow. That is a 6.8% cash-on-cash return on your $300,000 down payment, assuming everything goes according to plan. That is not terrible, but it is also not exceptional compared to other real estate investments, and it assumes stable utilization, no major competitive threats, and no significant unexpected expenses. Here is what actually happens day to day when you own a parking lot. If you are fully automated, much of the operation is hands-off. You monitor the system remotely via your parking management software. You check daily revenue, identify any equipment malfunctions, payment kiosk jams, gate arm failures, and review any customer complaints submitted online or via phone. But you are also dealing with constant small issues. Someone claims the gate arm damaged their car and demands compensation. Your insurance investigates. A payment kiosk stops accepting credit cards. You need to dispatch a technician, $200 to $400 service call. The license plate recognition camera misread a plate and a customer got charged incorrectly. You manually process a refund. A storm damaged the fencing. You get repair quotes. Every few months, you are restriping faded lines, $800 to $1,500. Once or twice a year, you are patching asphalt, $600 to $2,000 depending on severity. In winter climates, you are managing snow removal contracts or doing it yourself, $150 to $500 per plowing event depending on lot size. You are dealing with illegal parkers who park without paying and dispute the citations. You are managing monthly tenant turnover, re-renting spaces when tenants leave. You are tracking competitive pricing. A new lot opened 2 blocks away charging $2 less per day. Do you match their pricing and reduce revenue, or maintain pricing and risk losing utilization? You are dealing with property tax reassessments. The city reappraised your lot and increased assessed value by 18%. Your annual property tax just jumped from $20,000 to $23,600. That comes directly out of cash flow. This is not entirely passive. It is substantially more passive than operating a restaurant or retail business, but it requires ongoing attention, occasional physical presence, and continuous management of financial and operational issues. Here is the competitive dynamic that most new parking lot owners underestimate. Parking competes with free or cheaper alternatives. Street parking, even if metered at $2 per hour, is cheaper than your $12 per day lot. If customers can find street parking within a 3 to 5 minute walk of their destination, many will. Your lot only captures customers when street parking is full, too far away, or time-limited in ways that do not meet their needs. You are also competing with other paid lots. In most urban areas, there are multiple parking options within a few blocks. Your lot must be priced competitively, offer better location, provide better security, or deliver a better customer experience to win business. If a competitor undercuts you by $3 per day and is equally convenient, you lose volume fast. Parking is a highly price-sensitive commodity business with minimal differentiation. Let's talk about the regulatory environment, one of the most underestimated challenges in this business. Nearly every municipality regulates parking lots through zoning, building codes, ADA accessibility requirements, stormwater management rules, and business licensing. ADA compliance requires a specific number of accessible spaces based on total capacity, proper signage, van accessible spaces with additional width, and accessible payment kiosks. Retrofitting a non-compliant lot can cost $15,000 to $40,000. Stormwater regulations have become increasingly strict. Many cities now require bioretention systems, permeable pavement, or retention ponds to manage runoff. Adding these systems to an existing lot can cost $40,000 to $120,000. Some jurisdictions impose annual stormwater fees on impervious surfaces. A 30,000 square foot asphalt lot might incur $1,200 to $3,000 annually in stormwater fees, a cost that did not exist 15 years ago. Zoning restrictions can be devastating. Some municipalities restrict surface parking lots in certain zones, mandate minimum landscaping, require perimeter buffers or screening, or impose design standards that increase costs. Violating these regulations can result in fines, stop work orders, or forced closure until you come into compliance. Here is a specific risk that many parking lot investors face: eminent domain and redevelopment pressure. Parking lots represent underutilized land from a city planning perspective. A surface parking lot generates far less property tax revenue per acre than a multi-story residential or commercial building. Cities actively encourage redevelopment of parking lots into higher density uses. If your lot is in a redevelopment zone or near transit, you face constant risk that the city or a developer acquires the property through eminent domain or that your ground lease is terminated when the landowner decides to develop. You invested $1.3 million and operated for 5 years. The property is taken via eminent domain. You receive fair market value compensation, maybe $1.1 million for land that has appreciated modestly, but you lose your income stream and may not recover your full initial investment after transaction costs and taxes. Now let's talk about event parking, the model that appears highly lucrative but carries unique risks. A parking lot near a stadium, arena, or concert venue can charge $20 to $60 per event for parking. A 100-space lot at $40 per car with 90% utilization during an event generates $3,600 in a single day. If the venue hosts 50 events per year, that is $180,000 in annual revenue from events alone, plus whatever you generate on non-event days. But event parking requires staffing. You need attendants directing traffic, collecting payments, and managing the flow of hundreds of cars entering and exiting in narrow time windows. Labor costs for event staffing can consume 25% to 40% of event revenue. Events are also concentrated and unpredictable. If the team has a bad season, attendance drops and parking revenue falls. If a concert tour cancels, you lose anticipated revenue. You are also competing with official venue parking, nearby residential streets where homeowners offer unofficial parking in their driveways, and ride-sharing services that are dropping off more event attendees than ever. Event parking remains viable in certain high-demand locations, but it is less reliable and more operationally complex than it appears. Let's talk about technology disruption. The rise of parking apps like Spot Hero, ParkWiz, and integrated platforms like ParkMobile has changed customer behavior and margin structure. These platforms allow customers to reserve and pay for parking in advance, providing convenience and price comparison. Many parking operators list their lots on these platforms to capture demand. But the platforms charge commission fees, typically 10% to 20% of the transaction. A $15 parking session generates $1.50 to $3 in platform fees. That comes directly out of your margin. You are paying for customer acquisition and technology you do not control. The alternative is investing heavily in your own app and marketing, which requires scale most small operators do not have. The other technology shift is dynamic pricing. Sophisticated operators now use algorithms to adjust pricing in real time based on demand, time of day, local events, and competitor pricing. A space that costs $10 on a Tuesday might cost $25 during a Friday night concert. Dynamic pricing maximizes revenue but requires software, data analytics, and constant monitoring. Small operators are at a disadvantage competing against larger operators using these tools. Let's run the numbers two ways: best case and realistic case. Best case. You purchase a 0.6 acre parcel near a downtown business district for $650,000 in a growing mid-sized city. You invest $280,000 in development and equipment. Total investment, $930,000. You put down $330,000 and finance $600,000 at 6.5% over 15 years. Annual debt service, $62,700. Your 90-space lot is exceptionally well located. You lease 55 spaces as monthly contracts at an average of $185 per month, generating $122,100 annually. The remaining 35 spaces operate as transient parking at $14 per day with 62% utilization, generating $111,860 annually. Total revenue, $233,960. Operating expenses are well managed at 24% of revenue, or $56,150, because property taxes are moderate and you maintain the lot meticulously. Net operating income, $177,810. After debt service of $62,700, annual cash flow is $115,110. That is a 34.9% cash-on-cash return on your $330,000 equity. By year 8, the loan is partially paid down, property has appreciated modestly, and you are generating $135,000 plus annually in cash flow. You built a genuinely profitable real estate asset. Realistic case. You purchase a 0.8-acre parcel in a secondary location for $720,000. You invest $340,000 in development. Total, $1.06 million. You finance $760,000 and put down $300,000. Annual debt service, $79,400. Your location faces more competition than anticipated. A new office building 2 blocks away includes below-market tenant parking, reducing demand for your monthly spaces. You fill only 38 of 100 spaces as monthly contracts at $165 per month, generating $75,240 annually. The remaining 62 spaces operate transient at $11 per day with only 42% utilization because street parking is abundant. Transient revenue, $104,874. Total revenue, $180,114. Property taxes are higher than projected at $22,000 annually. Total operating expenses, $52,830, or 29% of revenue. Net operating income, $127,284. After debt service, annual cash flow is $47,884, or a 16% cash-on-cash return. That is not terrible, but after 5 years, facing a major repaving need costing $85,000, you sell the property for $1.15 million. After paying off the remaining loan balance and transaction costs, you net $420,000 on your $300,000 initial investment, a total gain of $120,000 over 5 years plus the $240,000 in cumulative cash flow. Total return, $360,000 on $300,000, or 120% over 5 years. Decent but not exceptional and requiring constant management. The difference between those outcomes is not the business model. Both are surface parking lots. The difference is location quality, competitive dynamics, property tax burden, and demand density for both transient and contract parking. The U.S. parking industry generates approximately $25 to $30 billion in annual revenue across an estimated 105,000 to 115,000 commercial parking facilities, both surface lots and garages. The industry is highly fragmented. The largest operators, companies like SP Plus, APCOA, and LAZ Parking, manage thousands of facilities but operate most under management contracts rather than ownership. The majority of parking lots are owned by small investors, real estate holding companies, or institutions as part of larger real estate portfolios. The investors who build genuinely profitable parking businesses are typically those who acquire land or ground leases in high-demand urban cores where parking scarcity justifies premium pricing, operate multiple lots achieving economies of scale in management and technology, own the real estate outright or bought at below-market prices, capturing appreciation alongside parking income, or specialize in niche markets like event parking, airport proximity, or medical campus adjacency where demand is concentrated and predictable. The investors who struggle or fail are almost always those who overpaid for land relative to achievable parking revenue, underestimated property taxes, maintenance costs, and regulatory compliance expenses, entered markets with abundant street parking or weak demand fundamentals, or were hit by competition, development, or regulatory changes that eliminated their competitive advantage. Parking lots are real businesses. The cash flow can be real. But the business works only for those who secure the right location at the right price, manage costs relentlessly, adapt to technology and competitive shifts, and recognize that passive income is a marketing term, not an operating reality. The cars park themselves. The lot does not manage itself.